side of things. I'd like to see these guys get a really nice seed, see what they can do with it.
That'd be certainly interesting to check out as we are getting going here. We'll sync up the two streams momentarily, but yeah, both these runners 1-0 currently. Oh, picking up the blue mail in the first chest. That's really nice. And they both managed to pick up a win last week, but Sydarial is coming by a very significant margin over his opponent, Dragus Cloud, by about 25 minutes or so. Takaze narrowly squeaked out a 2.5-minute victory on his own. So you don't necessarily know if that says anything for real, but maybe Takaze is looking to have a little more convincing margin of victory this time. Maybe Sydarial is looking to repeat that performance.
We start out with the bow from Uncle as a weapon, which is one of the best ones to get since the bow can be really tough to find sometimes.
Yeah, an important progression item on top of being a really nice weapon. And it should make this escape pretty easy for both runners. Just put arrows into everything and they die.
Yeah, and unlike bombs or one of the magic weapons where you're kind of tight on ammunition, 30 arrows is way, way more than you actually need to get through escape.
Yeah, most of these guards taking one, a whopping one, but some of them taking two, so, it almost becomes a little bit sketchy, but they will have the option to shoot a lot of extra stuff and hope for some bombs. Takaze already finding one himself, and he even opts to kill a few more guards. Sydarial likely will get his as well, given that they'll have the same drop pool, it just might be at a different point.
And I do have to add in that the key rat is probably the most annoying with the bow. At least with bombs you can just kind of kamikaze at it, but the bow, you get such a small hitbox on those arrows to hit that rat, it can be really annoying.
Yeah, that's true, and sometimes it's nice to get a different, second kind of bonus weapon along the way in the escape to offset that. We'll see if that happens. So far, they've only gotten the vanilla Hyrule Castle key, so that's not really going to help too much, but here in this chest with the second guard, it's just a bomb upgrade, so that's not really doing it for him either.
Now they have an extra little bomb bag hanging there that is still empty, but at least they got
it. A bigger empty bag with nothing in it. Or I guess in Takaze's case, it has one bomb in it, just kind of chilling there. But Sydarial soon, I'm sure, will pick one up. Meanwhile, he was gonna look like he's gonna go for the pot strats here. It does take, I believe, 4 arrows to take out the ball and chain guard, so you're just saying, let me save a couple arrows, and that's a really nice flute to pick up in that cell with Zelda.
Yeah, the flute saves so much time just moving around the overworld. To get it instantly before you have any freedom of movement is pretty much ideal.
Of course, pretty much all runners are going to take that immediate trip to Kakariko Village after the fact here, so they will be able to activate the flute right away and get access to fast travel. That's really nice, but now we're going to traverse back through the escape. We're going to bypass all these guards, and we'll be taking a dip into the dark sewers. If you're not familiar with randomizer runs, then normally you're required to have a lamp to get a light cone in the sewers so that you can actually see where you're going. But in this case, because the randomizer might not give you a lamp that early, it gives you a free light cone only for the duration of the sewers. After that, you're on your own.
Yep, and in the ultimate troll of the situation is that light cone persists forever. So if your first glove is in the back of escape and you don't get a bomb before you get there, you might have to go walk all the way through the sewers again.
Yeah, you never really want to see that from a given runner, but at the same time, Sydarial has killed a fair number of guards, and he has yet to see a bomb, which is kind of interesting. Takaze was getting his, pretty much right away, but Sydarial is still having to wait here, so we'll see if he's able to kill enough of these rats and ropes to pick up that bomb pickup.
Yeah, and unfortunately I didn't see what Takaze actually killed to get the bomb, but given the different prize packs, it could be possible that there's nothing left in the same prize pack. He's got to hope for a different bomb drop.
Yeah, that would be really, really unfortunate for Sydarial to get kind of RNG wrecked like that right away. This chest containing just a heart container as well. I mean, that's pretty nice. You like the 4th heart right away, but boy, he'd like some bombs right now, too.
It's always such a difficult balance when you're this far in, whether you spend the time to try to kill stuff for a bomb, or if you just say, it's probably not my first glove, I'm just gonna keep going.
Well, we've got the key rat. Takaze is having a little bit of an issue here. Boy, he's having a lot of an issue, but he does manage to get that key. Sydarial, realizing he doesn't have a bomb, he's going to have to kill some of these rats, maybe some birds. Oh boy, and he's still not seeing one. He's down to 6 arrows.
It's getting everything dropped but bombs, and there's the mirror in the back and a sword.
Oh, wow. Mentos, that's huge. And Sydarial is having to bypass those items. That's, wow, what a turn immediately. Under 6 minutes into this race, Sydarial already just having a really big disadvantage here.
Yeah, he's got to really hook the glove nice and early so he can get back in there and get those right away. The sword helps immensely. The mirror's going to help routing if he doesn't get it before Dark World. That could be a big hurt.
He picks up another bomb upgrade in the Sanctuary chest, almost taunting him at this point, the Seed, saying, you have this big old bag, but you can't put any bombs in it because you don't have them.
I mean, it could be worse, I guess, but it's definitely... I would probably be more taunted by getting a pack of 3 bombs immediately after getting out.
Well, still not seeing any bombs, but he does get red rupees from the tree pole. Takaze will almost certainly be picking those up momentarily as well, and red rupees from the crab as well, so really nice. And he's just going to chase him around, get as many rupees as he can. Looks like he'll come out about 100 rupees richer, so that's really nice for him.
Yeah, red rupees for tier 2 tree pole and the crab. If you ever need a bunch of money, you can just farm in that area very quickly.
Oh, Mentos. Did you see what I saw?
I did see what you saw, and that's just mean.
The good old mushroom on the lumberjack ledge. That is a fetch quest, which means that there is 1 item obtainable by getting that mushroom, but to do so they would need to collect the boots and defeat Aghanim's. So gonna be in the back of our runners' minds for a little bit. Takaze does find out that the crab has red rupees. He didn't before because he actually killed it immediately, but he will be going to Kakariko with a lot fewer rupees than Sydarial has, and the tier 1 tree pole only has hearts. But hey, there's a cape.
Okay, so we got a cape, a sword early. We got something of questionable importance on Lumberjack Ledge.
I know what you're thinking.
I do feel like the Seed's trying to tell them something right now.
Yes, that cape, heavily indicative potentially of Aghanim. Getting into Aghanim's tower requires either the cape or a master sword, and then you do also need any level of sword to be able to actually open the door to get in. To open the door in the back to get to Aghanim himself, and then you need to reflect his shots, of course. But we'll see. Looks like Takaze is starting in the northwest with the Thieves' Hut and well, probably, while Sydarial is going to go ahead and buy bombs since he had none left.
Just heart container, $20, another heart container, and another heart container. It's the health shack.
Wow. I mean, that's nice, but where are the items? Where are the items? It's another heart container or piece. That's 50 rupees. Please, Seed, give us anything. Anything.
Who needs items anyway?
I guess it's pretty much telling us, hey, you already got the flute, like, you can't ask for any more. That's plenty. Takaze actually equipped his flute, but didn't go to activate it yet, because he will actually have to wrap back around to the north anyway, since he ran out of bombs as well, and there were no bomb pickups in the Thieves' Hut. So he'll pick those up, and then he'll go back to the north. As mentioned, just a lot fewer rupees than Sydarial right now, but may not matter, just depends on drops.
Yeah, if early store is required, then it could matter, but at the moment, it shouldn't be too big of a hassle being low on them.
Sydarial gonna go ahead and discover his lovely thieves' hut here, literally, while Takaze picks up his rupees from the chicken shack, and now he will make his trip back up, do the well, and then probably activate the flute right after that. So we'll get to see now what's in the well here.
Hopefully, a lamp.
Oh, Mentos. Come on, man. Oh, bombs in the first chest of the well, too. Come on.
Naturally. But hey, I'm hoping for the lamp for good reason. If they're forced to do it and get Dark World access, then they don't have to worry about the mushroom on Lumberjack. They already have it anyway.
Yeah, I suppose that's a good point. Instead, they get some flippers and a bottle with some blue goo in it. The blue goo, of course, would be very nice. The full restore for both your health and your magic at some point whenever they choose to quaff that. But for now, the flippers will just give them access to a bunch of different checks, including access to Zora, which they wouldn't have had otherwise because of not having that glove.
Yep, and the trend of blue seems to be pretty strong still. Than that cape jumping in there and being red. Blue potion, the mirror, blue tunic, flute, flippers, everything blue.
Yeah, the sword has a blue handle. Alright, we'll get to see what the sick kid has since we picked up this bottle, and it's bombs. So Takaze taking a little advantage of that. Oh wow, Sydarial even buying more bombs. That is kind of unusual. I guess he has the upgrade capacity, but I'm not sure I've ever seen anyone go out of their way to buy more than 10 bombs.
Yeah, it can be nice to have a little bit more. Ooh, that layout of dungeons. Green pendant in Hera, red pendant in Desert, and Crystal 5 in Eastern.
Yeah, that's a little bit weird. They're of course going to want to go to Eastern because it's a crystal that they can take out, and they because they have the bow, so they can finish the dungeon in its entirety. We also saw that the bookshelf in the library, which requires boots to get, has half magic on it, so that'll be a nice pickup at some time later whenever they get the boots, if they get the boots, I suppose.
Yeah, half magic is one of those things that you never really want to go out of your way for, but when it's right there out of Kakariko like that, it's very easy to get to and grab on a whim.
Alright, looks like both runners are just going to follow the same path. Not a huge surprise here. This is a pretty standard opening. Continuing to the dam area, but of course that difference being that Takaze has the sword, which may affect his routing, or at least how he handles the mini Moldorm cave, where Sydarial, oh, well, okay, that's going to help Sydarial a lot. That's the power glove. He will have access to the backup escape now, and he's got plenty of bombs to get to it.
Yeah, it's fantastic luck for Sid there. I know Takaze just saved a little bit of time using the block racing glitch we use with the mirror that Sydarial couldn't, but he should be getting his sword and mirror soon, assuming he doesn't gamble that there's nothing back there.
Yeah, I'd be surprised to see him gamble on that, but I guess it just depends on how the other items fall for him. And given how the seed is going so far, being a little bit stingy, I wouldn't call it super stingy, just a little bit. He'll probably get there sooner than later. Meanwhile, in this mini Moldorm cave, it's a Master Sword, 320 rupees, make that 340, and an arrow capacity upgrade. The Master Sword being pretty nice, the rest of it a little bit forgettable.
Yeah, that sword means we won't have Master Sword for Go mode, which is always an entertaining way to end a run.
You and I have different definitions. Oh, wow. Okay, those words just did not come out of my mouth. Let's try again. You and I have different definitions of entertaining, sir.
I don't know, I always feel like that Gamble Up GT, where it's just, please let me get a sword, please let me get a sword. And then GT tells you no. There's some entertainment in that.
I just think of moments like that as a runner, and I get cold sweats. But yeah, as pointed out in chat, the Master Sword maybe even more heavily suggests the Aghanim play. Both runners making this Ice Rod Cave check, and they're both going to find their single arrow there. Not a very useful pickup. Of course, they can use the arrow because they have a bow, but eh.
You never know if that one arrow will make all the difference.
The good old arrow of Mothula slaying.
Now here's an interesting thing with the back of Escape that with Sydarial pulling his flute out, I'm kind of curious about. Once you have the flute, you don't really need to save and quit all that often, and the only real convenient way to go for back of Escape is by saving and quitting the Sanctuary.
Yeah, that and the two boots locations have that in common. It's much faster to save and quit the Sanctuary to get to them. But Sydarial isn't going for those just yet. He's going to opt for the swim first. He finds the lamp is on Lake Hylia Island. So the runners are actually going to get Dark World access before they'll have Aghanim access, which is very interesting. Now, the real question is whether that's going to be the required play. There's a hook shot for Takaze. That's a really nice pickup. And Death Mountain is absolutely in logic thanks to that flute.
Yep, hookshot with Death Mountain access means a lot of items just became available. I'm expecting right up there.
Yeah, your expectation aligns with reality as Takaze is going to go straight to Death Mountain. Sydarial went to the Hobo and did not get anything particularly nice there. So he's going to flute back to 8 and make his second jump into the water, and he has enough rupees to be able to go do Zora, so he's going to do all of that together in one trip while Takaze navigates the dark cave with the old man, and we'll see what he gets there.
And coming up to Zora should also push Sid to do a save and quit, which will pay off for him.
Yeah, this will basically just mean that overall he's lost, I don't know, 40, 50 seconds or something compared to Takaze, which is definitely possible to make up through routing alone. We'll see how that plays out as it goes. Just 2 heart pieces in that waterfall ferry, so that's not really lighting anyone's world on fire. On the ledge, it's a shovel. Wow, we're getting all the fetch quests here to start. And we'll see what Zora has. Takaze returning the old man. I did not see what he had, did you?
He just gave a little tip of $20.
Of course. It's always a big 20. Every time you don't notice what it is, it's always a big 20.
It's a pretty reliable guess. Oh, that's a hammer.
That sure is. And Takaze will want that. Oh, and the red mail on top of Spectacle Rock that I missed on his way in. Those are 2 incredibly nice items. With the 9 hearts they already have, and now the red mail. Wow, that's going to be really nice. Here you see the map check of the Dark World. Turtle Rock is a pendant. I'm sure Takaze will be pleased with that, and Sydarial when he finds out. Skull Woods is the 6th crystal, and all the other dungeons in the Dark World are also crystals.
Yep, the small downside of having that 2 pendant in the Light World is you have to do all but 1 Dark World dungeon.
Yeah, and certainly they'll be hoping to be able to go mode, possibly Swamp Palace and Ice Palace. Those would be big time savers. If you don't need to collect any of the items in those dungeons, you can skip the big keys and you can just do those dungeons very quickly. But we'll see how that plays out. Takaze collects his hammer. Sydarial actually is going back to Eastern. He did not opt to do those escape checks yet. Actually, I guess he hasn't even checked Eastern yet, has he?
Yeah, this is his first trip over here. It'll be interesting to see whether he goes and clears out Eastern Palace while he's here, since he has that bow or not.
Yeah, Takaze decided not to do that, which is a reasonable play given all the access he has to Death Mountain. Whereas Sydarial is walking out, but this, of course, doesn't necessarily mean much because he has that flute, but this means something. He's just continuing to walk along to Eastern Palace, and he will be clearing that.
Yep, there are a couple dark rooms which are sequence breaks to get through, but we know the lamp will be 100% accessible as soon as they have Dark World access.
Which really seems like that'll be soon. The only blocker right now is the Moon Pearl. Oh, Takaze having a brief step into the wrong cave there. That's a pretty common mistake because there's 2 entrances exist in both the Light and Dark Worlds of Death Mountain. In the Light World, it's the right door. In the Dark World, it's the left door for whatever reason. So it's very easy to forget. Meanwhile, Takaze hauls in the Quake Medallion from these bottom 2 chests. That's potentially nice. Depends what's required, I guess.
Potentially nice or potentially never touched.
You never know. Maybe he wants to stun a whole bunch of enemies simultaneously. Or kill some dead rocks for real.
And the rest of Paradox Caves so far, some bomb upgrades, some money, some more money, and a bottle.
Wow. As the paradox is, well, I was gonna make a joke here, but there's really no way to make a joke here about paradoxes not giving you things. So whatever, Takaze bomb jumps back across the gap and will continue to the top. And he actually has access to Tower of Hera, which, as we discovered earlier, is the green pendant. So he could opt to just go clear that.
Yeah, it certainly wouldn't be a bad play. Big question will be after he checks into there, does he come back and drop down to Spiral? Oh, he's doing Spiral Cave right away.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is fairly reasonable. If you have a pendant dungeon before you, you're probably going to say, you know what? I'd really rather not have to clear a pendant dungeon. It's not required. Even though Hera's pretty quick, it only has potentially 2 items. So Takaze is basically saying, I'm going to guess that the overworld is likely to have the stuff more so than Tower of Hera.
And I guess he also does have no fire rod or lamp, so there's a chance he could get locked out of Hera right away, and then he gets nothing. So
Yeah.
probably worth that. Probably worth skipping for now.
Yep, that's a good call. So he will flute away from Death Mountain. Sydarial navigating the dark rooms. I've not seen anything interesting in Eastern Palace so far. It looks like so far he's come up empty. There is one more chest left, and then there will be the boss location. Takaze, meanwhile, will cover the swimming section that Sydarial just did earlier, and he'll collect his multiple pieces of heart and shovel.
Yep, and get that good news that Aghanim is not going to be required for Dark World access.
Yeah, I wonder if, I always wonder if a runner's able to put that together, kind of given their situation, because, oh, wow, okay, so I'd actually looked away and I missed that silver arrows were in that last chest in Easter. That's really nice. But yeah, I'm curious whether the runner in the middle of trying to play the seed is able to kind of compute in their head that, like, oh, I just saw the lamp on that island, that means I have to be able to get Dark World access before Aga. Like, for me, I'm able to think of that if, I'm not playing, if I'm commentating, but it's really hard if I'm playing.
There are certainly some things that, in my experience, are pretty easy to put together, but some of them are a lot harder. Like that lamp there, especially being in the light world. If you forget how you get to that island for a moment, it may not click.
Yeah, if you're kind of tunnel visioned on just like, how do I get the item, you might just be like, oh man, I need to get that lamp, and not fully compute exactly what that all means. But Takaze picked up those pieces of heart and is continuing to Zora to get his disappointment there. Sydarial doing a pretty solid job of navigating those dark rooms. Not exactly like the cleanest thing in the world, but he survived and got through them. The blue mail really helping him out there. And we'll see some nice quick armors here in just a moment.
But it'll also be interesting, the longer he's got those silver arrows before Takaze heads to Eastern, the more boss fights he can build up that are just going to go ridiculously fast for him.
Just a heart container off of the armor, so this seed continues being ludicrously overly healthy, but unfortunately just not giving our runners the items they want quickly. Saying, no, you're going to have to work for this a little bit.
Yep, the seed will keep you alive, but not going to give you anything to do anything with that life.
Oh, Mentos, I love the double take that Takaze just did. Did you notice that when he got to the Zora Ledge item, which was supposed to be the shovel, it actually looked like a piece of heart?
Yep, one of my favorite little glitches to run into when doing things in this randomizer.
Yeah, that is because he left behind that piece of heart that Zora threw at him, and he left it spawned in the game world, so when he got to the ledge item, it appeared to be that previously thrown item by Zora, but in actuality, he still got the shovel, and he's actually going to go ahead and activate it immediately. While Sydarial does finally head in the back of Escape and will collect his mirror and sword, and unfortunately the shovel yields only 10 arrows.
Those 10 arrows, could be useful. He's only got 24. That's enough to handle some things, but not everything.
That's true, and he doesn't have silver arrows. He also opts to come out to Desert now. He did check the ledge. He found it was 50 rupees, and now he's going to check Agina's cave, and we're going to see if perhaps of the last few locations in the light world that even exist, maybe this is the one that has the thing that they want. In fact, I actually can't even think of another location that Takaze has not yet checked.
The big one that I can think of is Tower of Hera.
Yeah.
Other than that, though, I'm pretty sure we've canvassed almost everything that they have access to already.
Well, he's heading back to Link's house, and he's going to get out that flute, and he's going to take off. Where is he taking off to? Takaze is going to 5, and he will choose to do Eastern. Of course, Sydarial has checked Eastern, but Takaze has not. Sydarial shortly will find himself in the same predicament that Takaze is, that there's almost nothing left, so where do I go? And at that point, he may choose to do Hera since he is right here. So a little bit of kind of covering the same ground, but you know, I think you're right that really Hera's got to be the play. That's about it.
Yeah, and Sid's routing is going to pay out for him a little bit here because at the end of this, he's going to have virtually no locations left. Not dipping into Hera would be a crazy play in his position.
Yeah, it'll basically kind of offset the time loss that he initially suffered by virtue of not being able to check for the mirror and sword in the back of escape. So this is a good turn for Sydarial. It's kind of just put him back on even footing in this race, and both runners really executing to a very similar level and doing very similar routing so far. Of course, helped by the fact that the seed is really minimalist in what it's even giving us. But yeah, Aghanim can't be required. I doubt either runner is really going to want to do Dark Room Aghanim, so we probably are just going to see them continuing to do the exact same things as one another.
At least until we get that Moon Pearl, and then we're going to have a lot of options opened up pretty much immediately when they get to Dark World, and that's where they're probably going to start to split off quite a bit.
Yeah, between the Glove and Hammer giving them access to all the different Dark World portals other than a small number, and the Hammer itself, as well as the Flippers and the Hookshot giving them access to the entirety of the Dark World overworld, again, other than a few select locations like Death Mountain. Plus they have the Mirror. They just have everything as an option to them at that point.
If I think immediately upon going into the Dark World, they'll already be capable of clearing Pod, Swamp, Thieves Town, not quite Ice Mire or Skull Woods yet for a couple different items lacking, but that's 3 dungeons immediately they have full clearable.
If you had to express a personal preference for any particular one of those, which one would you say would be the one you'd want to go to first?
I'd probably be doing Thieves Town first myself, just because it is pretty much the most dense location with that grouped in with Village of Outcasts, Skull Woods, all that stuff.
Yeah, I'd say that's mine as well. But I've also heard from a lot from various runners who prefer doing Pod, for example, because Pod's pretty dense as well once you get past that, you know, kind of front section. Takaze navigating the Dark Rooms in Eastern Palace right now, he gets through them very quickly. He, of course, has the ending Dark Rooms in the way as well. But again, as you mentioned earlier, you know, with that lamp being on that island, if he is tracking the logic, he'll know that beating the boss is not considered to be in the logic right now. So it can't have the thing that he wants, but it could have something else useful potentially.
Okay, and still no sign of that Moon Pearl and Hera.
You know, something interesting, as Sydarial went upstairs, I don't think he checked the map chest on the bottom floor, so I think that might have an item just waiting for him down on the bottom. I'm not sure. I might have misseen that, but I think that's there.
I don't actually recall in particular either. Wouldn't be a bad play to skip that, go right upstairs since you got the big key right away, and then just worry about grabbing it if you don't get the item anywhere else.
Alright, well, Takaze working on his Dark Room in Eastern Palace. He has his key. He's taking a very significant amount of damage. He's actually just going to equip that blue potion. He's not going to drink it yet. He's just going to be a little bit careful. But he wants to get through this safely. Sydarial working on Moldworm, just getting careful position with those spins. 3 very nicely executed spin attacks, and he is through the fight and collects 10 arrows. Yeah.
So Hera itself wasn't the answer, but that green pendant that he just picked up, that could be the answer.
We'll see. We'll also see whether or not that chest comes into play. It looks like either he counted correctly and that chest just has nothing, or he did get that chest and I just looked away. Or he's in big trouble, but hopefully not. Hopefully it's the case that he is just smarter than all of us. I usually prefer for the runners to be smarter than the commentators.
Yeah, I do believe he got both items in Hera and then, so skipping that chest kind of proves to be a good choice here. Also, Takaze did manage to get through that dark room, defeating the hardest part of it, which is finding the pot you have to lift up to get up the stairs.
Yep. Alright, he's in on his Armos fight. He shoots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 arrows to defeat all the Armos Knights and collect his heart container. Sydarial clears Spiral Cave before heading into Paradox Cave, but then he's going to be down to just checking the green pendant. And Takaze, meanwhile, he's got nothing left but Hera.
Yep, so he'll likely be heading back up the mountain unless he's got something to do that I forget exists. And Sid's about to be full disappointment when this paradoxical cave gives him nothing at all that he wants.
Yeah, only the Quake Medallion with the hypothetical promise of future payoff, but certainly for now, it's not doing anyone any favors. So, Sydarial will come out of this with a very, very slight lead, probably on the order of a minute and change, but that, of course, can easily be wiped out by routing, and also may be wiped out by the fact that he has the shovel, and that might lead him astray for just a little bit. But we'll see what he chooses to do, and he also does have Agina's Cave available to him, but I have a feeling that green pendant is going to be top of mind for him and probably the first thing he checks.
Yeah, with all these items pointing up to Death Mountain, giving you access around Death Mountain, to get nothing up here would be kind of surprising. So if you follow the breadcrumbs, so to speak, you're going to want to get to Sasrael soon to check that green pendant.
Well, as we say that, he heads straight for desert, and he is going to check Agina's Cave. Meanwhile, Takaze is beginning Tower of Hera. Let's see what's in this back chest. It was a map, so there you go.
Definitely doesn't hurt to get the one-off location of Agina's Cave out before the one-off of Sasrael. It's Sphere 1, so it does have kind of inherent value in that way.
Unfortunately, the inherent value is buried in the form of a red boomerang that nobody wants.
You have the inherent value of a downgrade to the boomerang you already have.
Hey now, if the metric is lag, then the red boomerang is a very significant upgrade.
You know what, that's fair. I'll give you that one.
Alright, well, Takaze collecting his big chest and his map chest as well in Hera, so he is, or sorry, compass chest. He is on his way to the end of the dungeon. Will collect his 10 arrows and green pendant. Meanwhile, Sydarial opted, as I kind of vaguely guessed, to check every location except the green pendant first. So, negating a little bit of that potential advantage he had, but it looks very likely that he's going to get the thing he wants.
Yep, with both of them covering pretty much everything, the difference pretty much comes down to Sid only having to make one trip up Death Mountain, and Takaze having to make 2.
Of course, you're always kind of hoping that the seed isn't going to lead you astray like this, but unfortunately today, Sahasula deciding to hold the Moon Pearl in escrow for our runners, and they claim it by returning the green pendant to him from Moldorm, and now Sydarial has Dark World access.
It's not quite the dream of the pedestal Moon Pearl, but I'll take it.
Alright, he's choosing to enter via the swamp entrance, and that's going to put him right near Hype Cave, everyone's favorite. Unless it is a snooze fest today, like it seems so often to be. So we'll see what we get from Hype Cave. We've got our 4 chests and our generous guy, and maybe they'll have something interesting.
We can only hope.
5 rupees. 1 rupee. 300 rupees. An ice rod and an arrow upgrade. I mean, I can hardly imagine a worse Hype Cave.
I mean, it had the ice rod. That can be a pain to find. That's pretty nice for it to be there, you know, despite Turtle Rock being a pendant and never wanting to see it.
Yeah, exactly. If Turtle Rock were not a pendant, you would be like, okay, that Hype Cave had nothing, but it had Ice Rod, and I'm happy about that. But Turtle Rock is a pendant, so now you're like, God, is it going to send me to that stupid dungeon? Sydarial, meanwhile, having chosen to go to the Hype Cave entrance, has a really good location to immediately head over and pick up his lamp. So this is a pretty solid choice on his part. Just head right on over, get this out of the way before he has to do any dungeons like Pod that might require dark rooms. And he'll even return into the Dark World. This is probably a good way to also go get to the Pod entrance via the little ladder here.
Yep, kind of a lesser used routing to get up this way, but with the lamp on the island there, it works out wonderfully.
So Takaze, having acquired his Moon Pearl, is, as you guessed, diverging into a completely different spot. He is going to the Kakariko entrance, and he will either head to Village of Outcasts or Skull Woods. Personally, I usually determine based on whether I have the Fire Rod, but I also sometimes will just go to Skull anyway to avoid having to cut down all these bushes that Takaze is having to do. But he does choose to cut them down and go to Village of Outcasts.
Yeah, I tend to be on board with the go straight to Skull Woods play, although the last several seeds I've done, that has come back to bite me with Fire Rod and Village of Outcasts, so I support Takaze's choice here.
Well, his choice does pay off in the form of a big 20, but unfortunately that's not really what he's looking for. He'll open the door of Thieves Town and probably check these other overworld locations before he goes in. Meanwhile, Sydarial beginning his pod dip. We'll see whether or not this was going to be blocked. Free key.
No bowlock, but we're in the opening a pod where pretty much not all that much interesting happens. You just get a bunch of keys thrown at you.
Yeah, and rather than going to the bow side immediately, Sydarial will instead continue through the middle. There's actually some interesting potential routing you can do in this early section of pod by counting keys very carefully. We'll see what Sydarial is able to do. He's gotten 2 keys already, so there must be at minimum 4 keys in this front section of pod, and we'll see whether Sydarial is able to kind of play with his knowledge of the key count based on what he gets. But he will go ahead and check this big key chest. Good thing to get out of the way. Meanwhile, Takaze finding the big key of Thieves Town, which he is headed into.
Yep, and there are 4 chests up front in Thieves Town. One of them has to be that big key. The other 3 could be all items, could be garbage. And it's a pretty much even spread throughout the dungeon when it comes to Thieves Town, unlike Pod.
Yeah, that said, there's a little bit of a lengthy wait between clearing these first 4 chests and then getting to the 5th one. But Takaze, having chosen to go here, not a bad play. You can easily clear Thieves Town your first time through. There's no variance in how much damage you deal to blind based on the weapon that you have. It is strictly, you have to hit him 9 times. Everything is only good for that. Whereas Sydarial, going through Pod, he will be pretty well equipped to deal with it since he has the hammer and the silver arrows. It'll be pretty quick. So even though he only has Master Sword, he's not going to feel like he's losing any time on that either.
And Takaze gets almost the worst case scenario for Start of Thieves Town with compass, small key, big key, and a heart piece.
Yeah, all the true value buried in the back. There are 3 remaining items. Plus, he's got the small key, so he will almost certainly have to check that big chest of the dungeon. Sydarial has collected 4 keys in the front half of Pod, which means there's going to be at least 2 in the back. So, sorry, there's exactly 2 in the back. I can count. And so he'll head on back there. Those keys must be in the right side of the back here. They can't be in the dark maze to the left, nor can they be in the big chest, just due to the way the randomizer logic works. So if Sydarial knows that, he knows to expect his 2 keys over to the right here, and so he'll go right first and make sure to collect those.
Yep, I'm surprised he didn't go down to the basement first, because if you don't get 2 keys down there, then you know that the Harmless Hellway is going to be a key, and you can just head straight over to the dark maze.
Yeah, that's precisely correct, but he did opt to open that Harmless Hellway, and he did, as a result, collect his key, so not proving super valuable that particular use of time, but that's alright. In the meantime, he's collecting a whole bunch of other trash from the dark basement, and hopefully we'll find something useful somewhere in this dungeon.
This seed has been a slow burn for progression the whole time. Just one thing at a time. Like, hey, now you can do this. Better wait a while, but you can do it for now.
Yeah, this is the moment when they have the most stuff open to them simultaneously, other than when they first got to Sphere 1. But, you know, it's still not really giving them anything. Like, we're not seeing that Pod has something like a bunch of stuff in Thieves Town has a bunch of stuff. We're just seeing nothing. There's just nothing at all. Unless this big chest has something and it doesn't. And Takaze has, I believe, 1 item left in Thieves Town. I don't think I saw the other dungeon item. So he is going to go check that big chest and then defeat Blind. What's it going to be? One of these is the map. The other one's a useful item. I'm just kidding. The other one's a shield.
I mean, yeah, I can't even make an argument for shield being useful. At least not until level 2.
I mean, you can block arrows from the green guards in the light world? Yeah?
Shields are one of those things where, like, the first one is just disappointment. The second and third, you're like, okay, this actually makes a few things easier.
Alright, Takaze beginning the blind fight. Gets in proper position. Takaze, of course, has been working on his No Major Glitches speedrun, isn't even in that tournament, so he's got a fair bit of practice on this blind fight, and he's just trying to show off his best performance here. If you do this perfectly, it's basically a scripted fight. Takaze's got a little bit off script, but not enough to have any real problems, and he finishes it up and collects his map, and at least his second crystal.
His second crystal.
That's right, you only get your second crystal once, Mentes.
That's a fair point. And we're heading through the Dark Turtle rooms here to go see our friend Helmasaur, who maybe has something. There are so many items to get through Pod that have been given early. You would expect something to be here.
And yet, you're just not. Pod has had literally nothing thus far, and Sydarial is, you know, gonna get to the end, and I think... Why is there a turtle in this room? Is there always a turtle in that room?
Okay, there's a weird glitch that I don't fully understand. If the turtle in the room with the crystal switch is on the pegs in the right way, and you turn the switch, it kind of gets pushed down into that room, and then you show up later and just go, hey buddy.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I've watched a lot of Link to the Past and still never seen that. But in any case, here's Sydarial's Helmasaur fight. Holding the sword out in front of you makes the hammer hitbox easier to use, so he gets all his hits in, and then wraps it up with a silver arrow to the jewel on his head, and that is King Helmasaur down. Poor guy. Pour one out for the king. But meanwhile, Takaze found bombs in the digging game. And oh, hey, that was a dungeon item too, apparently. So neither of the dungeons they did having anything. What is going on here?
I guess this is the side of V29 where dungeons are garbage.
I mean, they're not, though, normally.
One thing I feel like I've seen with V29 is that it's kind of a mix of seeds where Overworld has everything, dungeons are garbage, dungeons have everything, Overworld is garbage, and pretty much everything in the middle.
And the silly thing is, like, we can't even say, like, oh, actually, it turns out after all this time, Aghanim was required. I mean, maybe he's required eventually, but they don't even have the boots, so they can't do anything. Like, even if they beat him, they can't get the item on the Lumberjack ledge because the boots are required to access it. So, what is actually intended here? Is it Skull, or is it Swamp?
I could definitely see the Swamp play. Looks like Sid's gonna go up and check Pyramid and Catfish, which are both probably worthwhile checks.
Well, we will see if he opts to include Catfish in this. I know a lot of runners will check Pyramid and then, like, I'm not walking all the way to Catfish, especially if they don't have boots. But we'll see what he gets from the Pyramid right now. Takaze getting his questionable measurement of hype from the Hype Cave, and Sydarial just finding a piece of heart on the Pyramid. And he will continue his walk.
For a moment there, I thought he was going to go out of his way for that piece of heart, which would have very much surprised me.
Alright, Takaze is continuing to the east, so I'm guessing he's going to pick up his lamp, assuming he remembers clearly that it is on that island. He does. He's swinging to the south. And after he does this, will he also opt to go to Pod? Takaze. I think the term for that is brain flatulence.
Believe you may be correct. Just that moment of wait, why?
Alright, he's actually opting to flute away. Oh, he wanted to flute away, but the pickle got in the way.
What a jerk. Oh, Catfish has bombs. Also, pretty much a jerk.
And Sydarial's already checked all this other stuff, so he's gonna go ahead and mirror out and flute somewhere. Takaze is making an interesting play here. He has doubled back to the Swamp Portal. I wonder if we're seeing the Swamp play from him. If so, I will be very excited. But we're not. Alright.
Yep, looks like he may not have known about that little ladder out of the water over there and wanted to go to Pod, but wanted to walk over there.
Okay, no, he's going to Pyramid. I think maybe this is like a similar amount of time to the Pod, to the number 5 travel if you want to go to the Pyramid. Because they're both pretty slow. So that was his play. He's going to collect, or more accurately, not collect a piece of heart shortly. Sydarial is heading into Village of Outcasts. So they're still doing the same things, Mentos. They're basically just neck and neck, but in different orders right now.
Yep, I think the first one to say, okay, fine, I'll go to Swamp, is probably going to be the one to get a little bit of an advantage build up.
Alright, well, we're going to see. Takaze is fluting away from the castle and directly to 5, so he will be going in to Pod right now. He will be getting extorted by Kiki the monkey, and then he will continue in and get his big ol' load of nothing.
And it's almost as if they decided, okay, change places. Let's just go swap places. We can do each other's stuff.
I mean, in a way, this makes for a pretty easy race to commentate. It's like, yep, Takaze's doing the thing Sid did earlier. Sid's doing the thing Takaze did earlier. I don't have to remember what all these items are. You viewers can see them for yourselves, and I'm just gonna sit here and wait for them to do something new. Call me when they get to new stuff. I'll just be over here like watching hockey or something. Okay?
And it doesn't even hurt when all the items are garbage, and it's even less important to know what they're going to be getting.
Well, in reality, we can always, of course, appreciate the execution of these runners and then kind of watch how they go about this. Again, I'm not sure about Sydarial, but I know that Takaze is a No Major Glitches speedrunner, and he, will be putting those strategies to use throughout this run, just trying to, save the little bits of time that you go for in No Major Glitches runs. It's always really cool to kind of notice those little details as you're watching a rando speedrun, because of course rando, you might think, well, oh, it's just all about the items or whatever, but it's really not. It's about the items you get and your routing, but it's also about executing properly with those items, doing the rooms as quickly as possible. And also a highly underrated aspect of the run is minimizing your menu time. So there, for example, Takaze could have pressed left and down to quickly get to the bombs and just instead went right a couple times. And like, that's a very minor thing. And also it's very hard to route your menuing on the fly, but that's just, one of those things where a top runner is able to save some frames here and there over, not top runner. Boy, that sounds negative.
I think in a way it's more so even experience than top runner. The more that you've dealt with the menu, the more that you know the way you can move from place to place. It just kind of becomes easier and easier. It's not even you have to be a phenomenal runner to get good menus. It's just usually the ones who have practiced most are the ones who are very consistent with their execution on everything.
Yeah, that's definitely for sure. And of course, being an experienced No Major Glitches speedrunner does not necessarily have any bearing on your ability to quickly figure out optimal menuing in a randomizer, because the menu changes every single time. Whereas, of course, No Major Glitches is about that kind of, it's more about that rehearsal of strategies, but there's still a lot of adaptation in a No Major Glitches run, so you will see them have kind of an advantage in that regard.
Oh yeah, as someone who did randomizer before ever trying a No Major Glitches run, dealing with a menu that was the same every time confused me way more than randomizer menus.
Alright, Sydarial bombing the skylight to let in the light down to the room where he will eventually fight blind the thief. Takaze collecting his key and his big 20 from the bow side of pod. I believe he has checked all the other same stuff that Sydarial checked, so he will go into the back side of pod. We'll see whether or not he is aware of the routing choice where you can skip the harmless hellway if you know that it is a small key. But otherwise, it's pretty much just going to be the same thing. I do know that Takaze does not know how to do the hammer jump, so even if he wanted to skip doing that as a way of saving a little bit of time, he would not be able to do that.
Trying to think through where progression could be. Pretty much we got Skullwood, Swamp, and Graveyard Ledge left unchecked. I can't really think of much else that's in logic. Ooh, I thought of one that's in logic that we haven't done yet. Spike Cave.
Oh, gosh. Please, no.
I hope not, but I just realized that they couldn't do that while they were on Death Mountain because of lack of Moon Pearl, but now they can.
Yeah, they do have an invulnerability item, so there is that. The logic does not take potions into account, so it would not assume that you can do Spike Cave just by virtue of having potions. But, or maybe it does. Maybe it assumes 2 bottles. I forget exactly what the rules are. Another thing to think about is how early they had access to things. Skull only has 2 non-dungeon items, and they don't have the Fire Rod yet, so there's a couple locations in Skull Woods that are just locked off to them. So it seems more likely that Swamp is the answer, but Skull does have a whole bunch of locations, like 6 total, I believe, that are not actually blocked by Fire Rods, so those do have the possibility of being the thing they want. But I feel like it's probably less of a possibility than Swamp right now.
Until we end up with the vanilla Fire Rod chilling in the big chest, and sadness for everyone.
I have seen that twice this week, including in my race, but hopefully not tonight. Sydarial cleans up Blind the Thief. He is now able to see. Is that really? No, I don't think that works. It's fine, I'll try again later. He's got a thief chasing him right now, but he's fine. He's just kind of an annoyance. And here we go. He's heading to the north and will dip into Skull. Looks like, yep, there it is. So we'll see if Skull is the progression. And I have a feeling Takaze is likely to follow him because Skull is just much less of a path of resistance than Swamp is, but we'll find out after he completes his King Helmasaur fight.
Also, just like that, I just remembered that Bumper Cave exists, so that's also an option. You can check if he goes the North Dark World route here.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see him do that after this. First chest in Skull, just a small key. That's nice, it'll allow him to open this door here, so he doesn't have to travel through the southeast room with the small key. Big key from the second one, and we'll continue to the right.
So at this point, there are about 3 chests left that could be value, and the first of them is a small key.
Now he's gonna set up for a bomb jump across the big big chest here. Now this actually is very precise if you don't have boots, and that's not quite the lineup. So he's gonna try for it again. Of course, he has tons and tons of health to get this set up. That actually looks pretty good, and it is. And he gets a compass. Yay!
Yay! I'm a pretty big fan of using spins to set up bomb jumps. If you release a spin as you're about to start falling, then hold away from the hole, you just end up on the closest pixel to the hole, which works for all of those bomb jumps and makes them pretty much free.
You know, I've given that strat a shot, and it's actually fairly difficult, so, at least for me. But, in any case, we have Sydarial, setting up the statue for this switch room, and the Gibdos are trying to get into, oh, well, okay. The Wallmaster gets in where the Gibdos couldn't. Also on Takaze's side, you notice he's going for the King Helmasaur fight. He actually did not hold the sword out in order to set up those hammer hits, which makes the hammer hits a little bit more difficult to get, but reduces the lag that you induce in the fight. So this time Sydarial takes out the Gibdos on his side and also avoids the Wallmaster, so he will be able to get the statue up switch and head into this back room, and let's see what he gets.
that could be nice later.
It's an item. It's one of the 2 items that Skull has, so the other one is buried behind the fire rod, and Sydarial is gonna have to look elsewhere.
So whenever we find mitts, and can go check what Maya requires, we'll find out if that was actually worthwhile or not.
Well, just a couple locations left. Takaze is fluting back to 3, having completed Palace of Darkness, so he is doing the Skullwoods play. Sydarial will be making his way to check Bumper Cave, and it is 20 rupees.
I don't know, it seems like a risk to leave that big 20 behind. What if you need 662 rupees?
I don't know. It'll be pretty tough to collect that, like, for example, from the 20 that the bird dropped when he killed it with the hook shot.
We're getting Graveyard Ledge check here. One of the most annoying locations for something important to be.
And it feels like we've seen everything important be at this location this week. So here it is from Sydarial. He's gonna bomb this back door and head on in. Takaze actually not heading to Skullwoods. He is heading through the Village of Outcasts. I wonder if he's just going to check the overworld locations or just take a different path into Skull.
Piece of Heart and Graveyard Ledge. So, is it Spike Cave or is it Swamp?
Gee, I don't know. 1 really annoying location versus 6 non-dungeon items. I'm not sure, man. It's a tough call.
He's going back into the Dark World up here by Village of Outcasts, it looks like. We'll see where he goes from there.
What is there to check up here? With no mitt. He doesn't even have book to check like the pedestal. He's got no mitt, so he can't do the extra overworld south of Village of Outcasts.
Oh, you know what? I don't think he ever went down the south route. He didn't do like Digging Game and Stumpy and K45.
Okay, yeah. So that'll make up some of this time that Takaze is quote-unquote behind by. Right now, it's hard to call either of them really behind because they just are both walled. I mean, Sydarial has checked a little bit more stuff, so in that regard, you might say that he has the lead, but it's just so unclear because of neither of them knows where the thing is. Whoever finds the thing first is going to be at a big advantage.
There's only one of the things that are left that opens up a lot of locations, and that's the mids, so they'll probably be hoping to see those later and get progression in other ways sooner.
So Skull or Swamp obviously will have like the boots or something, I'm sure. Alright, Takaze pulling out the flute. Where are you headed, buddy? Where are you going? Number 4. Magical number 4 is Takaze's destination. That is the Swamp Palace entrance, and that seems like pretty much the only play he can be making right now.
Yeah, if I can see him come down here for any other plan, then let's go check Swamp. I give up.
Sydarial taking a lot of digs to get those 3 bombs, and just gonna abandon those. Like, thanks, dig game. And he will continue on his South Dark World check, and then possibly even just loop around to Swamp. So we may see our runners syncing up here for real now, and this could get pretty spicy.
Yep, having this routing here at the end as he runs out of locations to check other than Swamp is pretty convenient, actually.
Yeah, and he won't even have the ambiguity of like, oh, should I check Bombo's tablet first? Because he doesn't have access to that. He doesn't have a book. He just forced into Swamp right here. And he has checked Skull. So that's one difference right now between Sydarial and Takaze. You know, it seems like Takaze has the lead. But Takaze actually came to Swamp before checking Skull Woods. Sydarial checked Skull Woods. He has the Ether Medallion from there, which could be important later. But for now, it means that... Oh... Takaze, careful, dude.
Had me worried there for a moment.
I'm guessing that was just a missed button press rather than second thoughts or anything.
Yeah, it seems pretty likely. And Sydarial is headed straight into Swamp.
As Takaze pulls the first valuable chest of the dungeon, and it is just an arrow upgrade. Now it's going to be a little bit before we get to see the real items, so chatters, feel free to put in some thoughts about what item is in Swamp that we need. Or maybe there's multiple, but, you know, give us your thoughts here.
My favorite suggestion I've seen so far is only boots in Swamp. And they have to go with that mushroom.
That's pretty good. I think another good one is Powder, and it's on the Magic Bat. Or possibly Cane of Burna, because it turns out that Spike Cave is actually the intended play. We're bad people.
You really are. Always hope for the worst for these runners as seeds go on. Just never changes.
Alright, well, Takaze is close to blazing a trail for us as he's entering the part of Swamp that actually has things. No big key yet, so he can't check that big chest, but he will be able to make the roundabout here. He's coming upon the compass chest. The tension's mounting, Mentos. It could be anything in this chest. Oh my goodness, what are we going to see here?
Big 20.
It is a bottle. That's nothing. But plenty of chests left. We were just kind of yanking all your chains.
Bottle, a little bit better than the big 20. Just ever so slightly.
That's true. I mean, you can put a potion in it later on. That'll be nice. But for right now, not all that nice. And now we get to wait for Takaze to pick up the key, not flood the key. And then he will be able to continue to the left side and get those 2 locations. This is kind of incidentally why a lot of people don't like Swamp that much. It takes a long time to actually realize the gains of the 6 locations that are in here that have non-dungeon items. So it's just slow to traverse, but once you get in here, there's a lot of good stuff here a lot of the time.
Yep, and there is, back and forth whether it's better to go straight to Argus and then come back in for left side, or go do left side while you're in here the first time. So we'll see if Sid takes the same route going straight left, or jumps toward the end of the dungeon and comes back in later.
Well, as you speak, so it shall be. Sydarial does decide to go to the end of the dungeon first before choosing to do the left side. Now, usually, if you're this early in the progression, it's just kind of like it's just a arbitrary choice almost. It's almost up to personal taste, because pretty much you're going to have to come back in for those left chests, because one of them at least is going to be a non-dungeon item. It's very unlikely that they're both going to be dungeon items. And here we find one of them is 100 rupees, and the other one is the compass.
So left side swamp, not paying out. Come on, back side of swamp. Don't make it spike cave.
Well, there you go. That's...
Okay. There's a lot of progression altogether.
Literally all the progression in the same room when the drained chests, both the boots and the Titan's Bin. Sydarial is now kind of uncorked a little bit, and Takaze will soon be. I wouldn't be surprised now to see Sydarial skip the left side. It makes a lot more sense as a gamble now that you have both the mitt and the boots, but it's still scary thinking, well, if you're counting items, there's going to be one more item over there, and it could be the fire rod.
Yeah, it's a much tougher call with how much of the world just got unlocked by those two items. That is a huge, huge amount of locations unlocked.
I think it's very likely Sydarial is going to be able to take advantage of it and just save the time, which will be really nice for him with basically no downside. On Argus, just having a little bit of an annoyance from these puffs because of having the Master Sword, having to slash them twice. But otherwise, this is a very straightforward fight. It's very uncommon for anyone to have problems with this.
8 damage sometimes, but the chances of dying to Argus are very low if you know how the boss works.
And a beautiful lineup for this Silver Arrow kill on Argus by Sydarial. He picks up his map, he is done with the dungeon, and he collects his 4th crystal.
And Takaze just collected his combo of extremity coverings with the boots and the mitts.
I like that, extremity coverings, that's pretty good. Do you mind if I steal that?
Yeah, it's fine with me.
It does look like Sydarial is going to opt to go back into the dungeon to head to the left side, so this is going to leave them. Takaze may come out with a slight lead here, or it may leave them roughly tied again, so they're going to be pretty close together. Sydarial had an opportunity to possibly save some time and be in the lead here, but this is a very risky gamble to kind of take, and if you say, oh, swamp left side, I think it has nothing, and then you just get screwed, it's not a good time. Takaze, meanwhile, is just taking a lot of time on this Argus fight here.
Something is missing. The big key?
Technically, it's not missing. Audience, have you figured out where it is?
Best logic change of B28, saving you minor amounts of time.
And I see that at least one person in the audience did pick it up. The big key is in the big chest. That is allowed for a very small number of keys that exist. Specifically, this is one of them. The Thieves Town small key can also be in that big chest. And the Tower of Hera small key can be in the Tower of Hera basement. And that's about the extent of it.
And then Pod and Turtle Rock have also traditionally just had keys that could do that based on your key usage.
Alright, Takaze having a dickens of a time with this Argus fight. Probably not going to be super happy with it, but he gets through it at least. Collects his 4th crystal, so our runners are very, very even right now. The only difference at the moment being that Ether Medallion in Sydarial's possession, and the knowledge of those first 6 locations in Skull Woods.
So the question is, do you head up Dark Death Mountain, Do you do the blacksmith purple chest chain, or do you head into Mire if possible?
I think personally, I go for the medallion checks quickly. We'll see what Takaze opts to do. It looks like he is heading back to Kakariko right now, and we'll see if this means he's going to Skull or if he wants to do the blacksmiths and stuff. Sydarial, meanwhile, finished up the left side. He is right behind Takaze, and we'll see what he opts to do, whether he chooses to go to 1 or 6 for those medallion checks. He is going to 6, so he will be getting that Mire information, whereas Takaze is going to be doing the blacksmiths and possibly getting an important item here.
It's always so happy to watch the runners take their time running around with boots after finally getting them an hour in.
Well, there you go. The Mire medallion was Ether. After that item in the crappiest chest in Misery Mire, in Skull Woods, that Ether medallion is going to be required, so Takaze will have to pick that up before he can do that dungeon. Sydarial could go there right now, but we'll see whether he opts to do that after Checkerboard Cave.
Sid also just grabbed the fire rod in Mini Mire Shed, so he is like Kano Samaria away from go mode.
Oh god, wow, I was looking away, I didn't even notice that, jeez. Kane of Samaria and possibly if the Kane, no, yeah. I was about to be like, oh, if the Kane's in Turtle Rock, what the heck am I talking about? It can't be in Turtle Rock, which means that the Turtle Rock medallion cannot be required for anything, so that's all there is to it. He just needs the Kane. He is going to go directly into Ice Palace, just immediately. First choice, let's do Ice Palace instead of, for example, Skull. So here we go. It's Sydarial's non-go mode Ice Palace, while Takaze checked the hammer pegs. And what do you know? What did he get in that hammer peg cave? It was the King of Samaria.
So we know where everything is. The runners don't, and it could be a while for them to figure it out, but we know where everything is that we need.
Well, so there's a path here for both runners. Now here's the problem for Sydarial. Ice Palace is a huge waste of time. He doesn't know it, but he could go mode this dungeon. But he's probably going to check all the locations, trying to see if he can get that cane and get into go mode. Takaze is heading to 7. He's finishing up his purple chest. And after this, I wonder if he will go directly to Mire. If he does, he's going to find out he needs Ether, so he'll know that he's not in go mode in that regard. But he will also get the Fire Rod, and that may lead him to Skull. So that is his path, is he wants that to be the exact sequence of actions. And right now, he is going to the Mire area.
Yeah, this is going to put him on a very nice path. Sydarial's going to have to make the call for that Village of Outcast stuff before Dark Death Mountain, which could be a tough call to make.
Yeah, and he knows he won't need to check the Turtle Rock medallion because he knows that it's not going to be a thing. So all he has to worry about is, will Hookshot Cave have the Cane of Samaria, basically. That's really it. Alright, Takaze's picked up his Fire Rod. He is walking out of the Mire Shed. He knows that his go mode item is the Ether Medallion. Where's the Ether Medallion, and where's Takaze going to go to find it?
That Fire Rod gives him 2 choices. Either goes to Skull Woods and finds his Ether Medallion, or he follows Sid into Ice Palace.
Sydarial's having a rough time with this Ice Palace bomb jump lineup. His one just now actually looked good, but he was off by a pixel. This is actually a problem for him. He's down at 4.5 hearts. He doesn't have that many more left. Each fall is 1 heart. This looks good, though. There he goes. Whew.
Yeah, there are some times where you mess it up the first time, and then you just get so thrown off because you're used to getting it, or because you're like, okay, well, I can do it this time, and it just kind of spirals.
Fortunately, he was able to get through, and the nice thing, of course, is since they both have red mail, the 4 hearts aren't going to be anywhere near as scary for him as they could be. Takaze is deciding to check out these bonk locations with his newly found boots, and he is going to find probably nothing useful, but maybe something. Powder could be here, and that would at least be a nice pickup.
There's always the option of a sword as well. They would probably like to have more of the Master Sword if possible.
That is definitely true. Right at the moment, having only the Master Sword, Ganon fight will be fairly challenging. I generally find with Master Sword that the silverless portion of the fight is not really the hardest part. It's more the part where you have to spin 12 times while he's doing the fire bat spins is really hard in phase 2. But of course, everyone's opinion differs. Takaze definitely was practicing some of his Ganon spinless silverless strats earlier. I'm just making up all sorts of new words for how you do Ganon. Spinless?
There can never be enough new words for how to do it. You can just make more new modes where they all apply.
Well, Takaze is making the play he needs to make, Mentos. He is going directly to Skull Woods, and he's starting with the front. He's not trying to get fancy. He is going to get all of the items in this dungeon, which includes that Ether Medallion and that crappy chest. So here we go. It will just be a matter of how long it takes him to get this versus how long it takes Sydarial to go get that cane from the hammer pegs.
Yep, if Sid heads straight to Village of Outcasts over those hammer pegs, it's going to be very close by the end of this.
Alright, having the big key in hand, Takaze is going for the bomb jump here. Thanks to the boots, it's a lot easier to set it up. He collects his valuable compass there, and he'll head back across to the other side and get his small key and then head into the rest of the dungeon.
Hey, that shield from earlier finally paid off with a level 2 shield.
Yay.
I'm sure that's exactly what Sid was looking for in Ice Palace. I'm sure he was really happy to see that one.
He's got 14 hearts, he's got red mail, he's got a red shield, and he has got both Diddley and Squat from Ice Palace, so Takaze possibly forgetting that he's got his hands on the Cane of Samaria, so he's just going into the no major glitches strat here of pulling this thing properly with the Gibdos walled off. That was very well executed. It could have been faster with the cane, but it's very, very easy to forget that you've gotten a newly acquired item. And there it is. Takaze is in go mode at 1 hour and 17 minutes, and he is going to blaze through these remaining dungeons.
Yeah, he'll probably continue to check stuff in his way, looking for a sword, but not going to be going out of his way at all for the remainder of the dungeons.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out, what his level of confidence is as far as Master Sword spins on Ganon go. But you certainly, especially against an opponent like Sydarial, I'm sure Takaze has done at least enough research on his opponent to know that he won by a pretty significant margin last week with a pretty good time. I don't think Takaze is going to underestimate him by any stretch, and he'll be thinking about the fact that he can't necessarily afford to just go spend multiple minutes checking extra locations or anything.
Sid grabbing the magic restock over here before heading to Cold Stair to make sure he's got enough magic, since you do need 100% of it to get through there.
Yes, Daryl not having picked up that half magic from the bookshelf, that could be an issue for him going forward. It also might not if he's confident enough in his play. Takaze, meanwhile, is going to try to deploy his best NMG strats on this fight, Mothula. He is using the Fire Rod to push him away from the spikes, and then just as much as possible trying to get those slashes in on him. Mothula is being incredibly uncooperative. These spikes are going in really awkward positions.
Oh, I'm so glad Sid had a blue potion. He accidentally fired that fire rod to the right at first and wasted a shot.
Oh, that's scary, but fortunately he's alright. Got Cold Stare in the corner. He's going to lock him in as much as possible. Cold Stare gets free now, but he's got a whole bunch of magic left. Takaze, meanwhile, wrapped up his Mothula fight at the same time. So the dueling fights between the two runners, but unfortunately, Sydarial is coming at the end of a rather lengthy detour to a dungeon that he did not need to full clear.
Yep, and what Sid does next could be a major... Ooh! Okay, well, no one's doing Master Sword Ganon today.
Wow. I can't even imagine a situation that would have been better for Takaze. The game is just lining it up for him with that sword for free on Cold Stare.
Although he's gonna go do Meyer before Ice, so he is gonna get stuck with Master Sword Vidi, but he has the silvers, so sword level doesn't really matter.
Yeah, this is turning really good for Takaze, and Sydarial basically just needs to hope that he makes the correct decision immediately. This, unfortunately for him, is not it. He needs to go to the Hammer Pegs ASAP. What he's going to do here, of course, is check Super Bunny Cave, Hookshot Cave, and he's going to find out what the Turtle Rock Medallion is, but hopefully he doesn't have any thoughts about going in there, because there's absolutely no reason to do that.
Yeah, and Ice is a pretty long dungeon, even in Go mode, so as long as he goes directly to Village of Outcasts after this, it would still turn out very close with him just having Mothula and Meyer to go afterwards, but he does need to get there very quickly.
Yeah, unfortunately, East Death Mountain, well, East Death Mountain is a somewhat quick check, but unfortunately just, it can't have anything that he super needs. The best thing it can have for him right now is like the gold sword. The worst thing it can have for him right now is the book. That would be real bad news. Lead him on potentially a wild goose chase to go like check the ether tablet or something. Fortunately, that's just a bomb upgrade, and that's just a heart container. He'll never complain about those, but he's going to really want that cane, and it's not going to be here.
Yeah, now I got red shoes, red sword, red shield, red tunic. He just wants that darn red cane.
I think the lyrics to the song end with the word Cadillac. Zero is a time bomb, dude. I hope that wasn't too obscure. Well, there's a bomb burst medallion, so if he did want to get into Turtle Rock, oh man, okay, I'm dumb. Fortunately, even if he wanted to, he can't. There's no possible way, thanks to the fact that he doesn't have the cane. So I keep forgetting that he's safe.
Yeah, he's definitely safe from TR. I was kind of staring in confusion at how bad Hookshot Cave was of just anything really valuable.
All right, Takaze, meanwhile, is working on the left side of Meyer. Did he skip the bottom left chest? Yeah, it looks like he chose to double back from the map chest, so he wants to see if this compass chest. He wants to see if this vanilla map chest, oh my god. I'm gonna complete this thought. He wanted to see if the vanilla map chest had the big key, so that maybe he didn't have to go through the like 20-second cutscene or whatever. Unfortunately, it doesn't. He does have to sit through that cutscene because the big key is in its vanilla location in this dungeon.
Yeah, and actually, that's one thing that, or actually, I didn't see what the item in the map chest up at the top of the torches was. Was it a small key?
No, I don't believe that it was. So he didn't have the, you were getting at the logic hint, right? Where if there's a small key in one of these chests, the big key has to be in the other one.
Yeah, I was looking over at Sid on Spike Cave over there when he got to that location.
Yeah, and he picked up the gold sword, which is really just, like, it's almost a slap in the face at this point. Like, come on, game. I do think this sequence of plays by Sid is going to eventually lead him to the Hammer Peg Cave, and he's going to get his Cane of Samaria, but boy, it just feels real slow right now, and Takaze has only the rest of Meyer left, and then he's going to go mode Ice Palace, and it's enough faster than Sydarial's Meyer is going to be that it's scary for Sid right now. If he wants to have a chance here, Hammer Pegs needs to be the very first thing he does. Skip the blacksmith, forget that idiot, go straight to Hammer Pegs right now.
Yeah, when you're looking for one last item, it's usually a good idea to do Hammer Pegs before grabbing the blacksmith, because if it is the item you need, then you have to ditch him to be able to get there. And oh, he's going to finish Mothula. Okay.
Well, this is not that bad, at least. This won't be a waste of time. He has to do this. Did Moth have an item, or did he not? I forget. I think either way.
I also forget. If he
all it'll do is make him check that one extra chest in the back section, but there's much worse things than that he could be doing right now. It's certainly not going to help. Like, it's not going to make it faster for him overall, but at least this is among the least bad things that he could be kind of doing instead of going to hammer pegs.
And what I was trying to get at was before he started walking Skull Woods, I got thrown off for a moment. If you do the hammer pegs before blacksmith, you don't have to worry about returning the blacksmith in order to be able to go to dungeons. Whereas if you don't do them first and that's your item, then you have to return the blacksmith because he just won't follow you into a dungeon.
Oh man, Takaze is rocking 2 hearts going into this fight, and he actually just decides, I'm just going to drink a blue pot. I do not need this stress in my life. He just walks straight on in with these silver arrows, puts them directly into the eyeballs as quickly as he can, and he is on to the second phase. And he jumps 2 silvers into the eyeball to finish him off, collect 10 arrow upgrade, and his 6th out of 7 crystals. Just Ice Palace to go, and he's already got his mirror equipped and ready to go.
And meanwhile, Sid about to take advantage of one of the edits that Randomizer makes from Vanilla. In Vanilla, your gold sword does the same damage to Moth as Spikes, so it doesn't actually hurt him at all, unless you do a poke. Randomizer fixes that, since you can end up with gold sword here a lot easier, and it does tempered sword damage to Moth.
And he does make great use of that fake tempered sword in dispatching Mothula quickly, so he's got 6 out of 7 crystals. 1 item to go, and then it's going to be Takaze's Ice Palace in Go mode versus Sydarial's Misery Mire in Go mode, and then Ganon's Tower. So here we go. Takaze even opting for a potion trip here. Sydarial is checking this extra chest. Mothula did not have an item, as mentioned, and unfortunately, it's just going to cost him a little more time that he really can't afford right now. This Ice Palace is going to be a lot faster than the Mire is going to be. Where the heck is Takaze going?
I'm not sure.
Did he never do these? No, he just... I don't know what's happening. It's fine. He's going to ice. Everything's all right. Don't worry about it.
It definitely looks like one of those things that just muscle memory. Okay, I'm in this water here. Let's go in this portal, and then, oh wait, no, this is where I want to be.
Happens to the best of us, of course. And now Takaze is where he wants to be, which is Ice Palace, and he is going to dispatch this dungeon as quickly as possible, and it's going to be basically a no major glitches speedrun for him. And again, this is something he's been working on a lot, so you'll get to see this rapid execution here, and you'll get to see how well he's able to pull off his Ice Palace bomb jump.
The only main thing different from NMD is that lack of the tempered sword, since it's hidden on Cold Stare, instead of just being available before him like a nice sword.
Yeah, and you know, that half magic is going to make that fight really nice anyway, because he's just going to whip out the fire rod and just spam until it dies. So here we go. Sydarial is picking up the blacksmith. He will get to the hammer pegs. He will find that Cane of Samaria, and he will be in go mode in just a few moments here. But first, he needs to go over there and do those things that I just described. Takaze is dropping down. He has set up the pegs, not quite, for his hammer jump, bomb jump. I'm so excited I can't even say the right words, dude. It's impossible.
Oh, so that's the reason. I see.
Yeah, definitely. What other reason could there be?
I don't know. I was really confused for a while there. I get it now.
All right, Takaze lining up his Ice Palace bomb jump, having a little bit of trouble here. He's using the boots, actually, to basically kind of stop himself at the edge here, and he does get it there. Perfect. There you go. So he is across. Sydarial picked up that Cane of Samaria. He's going to drop off the blacksmith and say, okay, see ya, buddy, and he's going to flute directly to Mire.
Nice meeting you, friend. I'm going to leave you here at home. Never see you again. I'm going to go kill a pig.
I suppose it could have been worse. He could have just, like, abandoned him in some sort of awful place, but no, he took him home. He left him in the comfort of his brother or friend or whatever, and here we go. So it is about half of Ice Palace left in go mode versus Sydarial. He has to go all the way to the vanilla big key location to collect that big key, and if he follows a similar routing pattern as Takaze, he's even going to try to check every other location along the way to avoid having to do that cutscene. not knowing, of course. Oh, hey, a bird toss for us. Thanks, dude.
So if he doesn't do quite the same routing, if he goes straight, to standard routing up to the bridge chest, the spike chest, and then over to the torches and the vanilla big key chest, it's going to be pretty close entering Ganon's tower.
Yeah, but it's going to be a distinct advantage for Takaze for sure, and Sydarial will definitely be counting on at least some sort of routing divergence between the two of them in Ganon's tower to be able to possibly eke out a victory here. Takaze starting in on Cold Stare, he's making good use of that fire rod, and then he actually goes for the pin in the corner and gets a ton of swings in, not even bothering with the fire rod. Now throwing in a shot here and there, taking a ton of damage, but it's all right because Red Mail is the savior of all links everywhere in Hyrule. And there he goes. Mentos.
Probably very happy to see that sword.
Mentos, can you tell me what time is it?
I feel like it's time for some kind of guessing game we usually do.
That's right, it is. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, as always, if you feel inclined to do so, please feel free to guess where in Ganon's tower that big key will be. There are 22 locations in the basement, any of which could have the Ganon's tower big key, and our runners want to find it, hopefully in some of the first ones, but you take your guess. 22? 15? 17? 4? What do you think, Bentos?
With Sid following along the routing to Vanilla Big Key last, I'm gonna kind of hope for 22, and then he gambles on Tile Room, so we have a real close race.
Perfect. I'm gonna go with a slightly different round. We're gonna say for Takaze, because Takaze is the leader, so since he'll be entering Ganon's tower first, the number's gonna be based on him. I want to say 21. I want to say that he's gonna go right side first. There's no small key there. He will full clear the left side. Nothing there has it. And then he has to come back to the right side, and it's in the last chest on the right side before Tile Room. Meanwhile, Sydarial steals the key from the left and does Dark Magician route or something. That would make it really close.
That also sounds like a fun option. If either of those happen, it'll be great. If neither of them do, it'll be great for Takaze.
That's for sure. Takaze is definitely hoping for a nice, clean 1, maybe 2, maybe even as crazy as 7, but certainly not much worse than that. He is fast approaching Ganon's tower now. Sydarial is waiting on that cutscene. Now he is dropping down to pick up his big key of Misery Mire, and he will still have to finish the dungeon before he can even start following Takaze. So this is a very substantial advantage for Takaze. It will take a lot for Sydarial to be able to make this up. We'll see how it goes as he enters Ganon's tower momentarily.
If he did save a little bit of time on that Mire routing, he went back from the chest in the main room over to the Vanilla Big Key spot, but not a huge save.
Alright, here we go to the right side with Takaze. A small key for him, and the second chest has another small key. He will continue to the right. This is the mostly the most common meta these days. People will hope to get a key in this room, commonly referred to as the Hope Room, and then they will go directly to the right and collect 4 chests on this side.
Yeah, if you watched last spring tournament, and then this is the first time you've been watching Random since then, that main route has definitely changed in the past year.
Yeah, and we've seen tons of variations too. I mentioned the Dark Magician route, which is one where you... Oh no, Takaze getting walled on the right side here, and he's actually going to have to go back and relight all these torches. He's just slightly too slow. So here we go again, but... it's going to take a lot of mistakes like that for Sydarial to be able to catch up, but wow, Takaze is having some problems in this room.
And blocks him. Oh, did he make it?
I hope so. We're going to find out in a few seconds when we catch up on those frames.
The suspense is real.
Alright, Sydarial, meanwhile, wrapping up Vitreous. He is through that fight, collects his 7th and final crystal, and will be making his way to Ganon's tower. We got a brief glimpse on Takaze, and he is going up. I think he got his big key on the right side.
I think so. So we know it's somewhere 3 through 6, but don't know any more than that.
Well, we're gonna have to do some magic to figure that out. But meanwhile, Takaze working on the mimics now. He has been practicing this room a lot, including right before the race. That setup looked really good to take them out. Second room looks pretty good as well. Beautiful execution there and avoiding all the BMOS hits, so he is through and he's working his way up the tower. Sydarial is just going to chase as fast as he possibly can. He should be able to get his big key pretty quickly as well, but right now he would be having to count on some Ganon falls or a death or something from Takaze, who, as mentioned, has Tempered Sword and Silvers, so it's going to be a tough road for Sydarial.
Yeah, it's pretty much, he's got to do everything he can to keep his execution clean, moving through there quick, and at this point kind of hope for the best when it comes to his opponent having some bad luck.
All right, Takaze into the gauntlet. This is, of course, the great section of NMG execution that you always get to see, and Takaze is doing pretty well so far, using that Tempered Sword's reach to good effect, taking out all these Zazits very quickly. Into the second to last room here. Very nice execution on that one. And just one more room. He's going to bust out the Fire Rod to burn this Stalfos down. And then he's just going to try... Oh, perfect. Another Fire Rod shot on that last Zazik, and he is done with the gauntlet. No powder, unfortunately, so he's going to be stuck on this health count. But he does have potions, so he could potentially make use of those later on.
Getting almost the 1 cycle on, or 0 cycle on Lamolus, but another spin is going to wrap up the last worm. Oh, the shooter. The shooter,
Oh.
no.
Yeah, that shooter is the troll, dude. You think that this second landmass fight is so straightforward, but the shooter just ruins your day. And it's 1 damage regardless of your armor, too, so it's just terrifically annoying. Look at this crap, dude. This is so annoying.
The little frustration pulls on the wall, like, come on!
Alright, Takaze is through. 4.5 hearts left, but he is done with the most difficult parts here, and again, he still has those potions. Here comes Sydarial, and he is heading directly to the right side, so he will be soon collecting his big key, traipsing up the tower, trying to keep up with Takaze, who is just absolutely blazing a trail through here. He is not stopping for anything.
Yeah, it's been a very smooth gauntlet so far, and outside of the little issues that shooter caused on Lamolus, everything else has been very clean.
He's entering this torch room. He is going to beat out the fire bar there with some very nice movement, dashing right along the edge there. Very nice. And he will fire rod that last torch to get through. See whether he decides to play it safe on the sprite despawn glitch. He does not. He was very confident that he had plenty of time because all his movement's been so clean. And he is in now to pick up his last key from this Helmasaur here. We'll see if he even bothers. Nope, he is not even bothering to check any chest. There it was in what would have been chest number 4 for Takaze, the big key of Ganon's tower, and Sydarial has it now, so he is heading up as well.
It was a very friendly big key.
Alright, our good old buddy, quote-unquote, Trolldorm, also known as Moldorm, his actual name, because, believe it or not, you do have control over whether or not you fall to this boss. Unfortunately, Takaze today, just with a slightly erroneous placement of Link's aim, and unfortunately taking the fall, but he'll head straight back up. At this point, it'll take a lot more than 1 Moldorm fall to cause him to lose this race, so now he's just going to chill for a minute, wait for Moldorm to explode a whole bunch, and skip the last chest of the game, because again, there's nothing in it that he needs.
And he could have gotten Butter, which makes Ganon a little bit easier, but obviously it wasn't actually there, so it was the right call.
Yeah, and technically, if your execution is good enough, there is no time difference between having Tempered versus having Gold on Ganon. Now, for a lot of runners, they'll still want to have gold because it's just easier to do the same level of execution with gold versus tempered. But in Takaze's case, certainly not enough to just waste a couple seconds opening a chest that has a very tiny chance of being gold sword anyway.
I do see one thing brought up that is a good point I hadn't considered. With only 4 hearts left, it might have been a good idea to open that just on the hope of a Sank heart or a heart piece that fills up your health, something along those lines.
I think Takaze is not likely to sweat it because I believe he's still got the blue potion, and he's pretty confident in his Ganon execution, most likely. Ganon being one of the things that you have to practice almost the most as a No Magic Glitches runner, because otherwise you will definitely die. There goes Aghanim too. Sydarial coming into land molas too, and just unfortunately all of his silver arrows going awry. Might have a slightly easier time on this one. He's just going for some gold swings because he has access to that sword. It's only 2 slashes to take out the land molas, and there they all go. So he will be continuing up the tower as Takaze gets to the pyramid, and it is now his opportunity to slay the pig.
Yep, this should be a pretty good Ganon fight. He did just use that blue potion, but he's got red mail and half magic, so health isn't really a concern at this point.
Well, Ganon giving him some valuable advice, asking him not to stand so close to him, because if you do, you will take Ganon hug damage, and that is a lot of damage. Takaze getting a nice position between Ganon and the wall, so he's able to get a double spin in, which actually counts as 4 tempered slashes, so that wraps up phase 1. Phase 2 requires 12 sword slashes. Takaze's getting them in pretty quickly here. I think he may be 1 or 2 off. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, he's, I think, 2 off. So he's just going to wrap it up right here, and now he's going to evacuate the area and wait for the last phase, and he has even got yet another potion, so he is so thoroughly safe.
The bonus blue pot to the rescue.
Ganon even obliging him with a teleport at the start of phase 3 so that he didn't have to worry about getting a hit in before the fire bat. Now obliging him with a lot of teleports. Please stop, actually.
1 teleport? Good. Too many teleports. For the love of God, stop.
And these are, of course, random. However, it will be the same randomness for both runners when they get here. So, aside from the fact that Takaze has no control over it, it will not make a difference in the race outcome. However many times Ganon chooses to do the thing. Did you find the arrows in Eastern Palace? Why, yes, Ganon, we did. And Takaze will soon be sticking them in the pig. There's 1, there's 2, almost a 3rd, but he will be done very shortly. That's 3. 1 more to go. Oh, he tried to get fancy. Oh, no! He gets knocked off!
Oh!
That is incredibly bad for Takaze and incredibly good for Sydarial. There's still a ton of time left, though, before Takaze is in real danger here. But, boy, he did not need that right now.
Yeah, he's still got a good lead, but his health is lower. He doesn't have the potions of safety anymore. He's going to have to play a little bit safer. That could be a meaningful fall.
Yeah, and he has tons of magic, so he may opt to put the cape to use this time and just give himself the immunity to those fire bats. You do not want to take more than 3 fire bat hits right now, and Takaze really would prefer to have 0, but here we go. He is getting a similar position along the bottom where you can get that quadruple hit in there, and now he just needs to dodge the trident a little bit. Ganon being really mean with these positions, not giving Takaze an opportunity to really do fast strats. He's going with the hook shot instead of the cape. He hook shots toward Ganon, very nicely timed, and this looks like it will still be a 2 cycle for this phase 2. Manages to dodge all the fire bats, very nice. So he's at 7 hearts. Sydarial is done with Aghanim, and he will be joining Takaze in this fight very shortly, who clears phase 2, and now he has to see if he can dodge a fire bat here, but he doesn't get the teleport this time. But look at the movement between the fire bat. That is incredible, Mentos.
Yeah, this has been a very, very good, clean Ganon fight. Kind of, the first one was sloppy, the nerves were there. This has been very strong.
Oh my goodness, he let a fire bat off the second time, but fortunately it dissipated while Ganon was teleporting again. So here comes Sydarial. His first 2 phases are going to be way easier, but he is still 2 phases behind. Takaze is waiting on teleports. His teleport pattern is going to differ now. He needs to light this torch for the torch glitch. Yeah, we know about the arrows. Dude, chill. Takaze lights the torch. All right, here he goes. Sydarial has already finished up phases 1 and 2. He is just waiting for his opportunity. Takaze is down to 4 hearts. He puts 2 arrows in Ganon. He's almost done. He lights up the torch. He doesn't get the stun. Oh, the fire bat is in the way. 1 more arrow will do it for Takaze. And there it is. Takaze is victorious and will just need to cross the bridge. Oh my goodness.
That was an absolutely fantastic finish.
And there it is. Takaze enters the door and finishes the race with a time of 1 hour, 44 minutes, and 55 seconds on speedracing.tv. GG to him, as Sydarial misses the torch glitch, but he's got the silver arrows, so it really doesn't matter that much. He's going to stick some arrows in the pig. Avoid those fire bats. Just a few more here. There it is. Wow.
And after all that, a little bit less than a minute probably between the 2 runners in terms of finishes, with Sid finishing at 1:45.46, 51 seconds.
My gosh, what an incredibly close race. Despite everything, despite the large lead that Takaze managed to take into Ganon's tower, just 1 fall nearly changed everything. But Takaze able to pull out absolutely fantastic execution on the second Ganon fight, and he was able to salvage a victory there with Sydarial breathing down his neck. Absolutely incredible.
Just to kind of fill chat in if they were unaware of why he took that fall there, the fire bats end up doing a little thing where if you are pressing a direction on the D-pad, they knock you back away from that direction you're pressing. So he was trying to go up to dodge the fire bat. When it hit him, that caused him to get knocked back downward and right into the hole.
Yeah, you always just gotta be careful with that, with your position on that Ganon fight. And just getting slightly cocky there can be really, really potentially rough. So you really don't want to kind of like overextend yourself on that fight.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where you do it so much, you're just confident that you've got it. And then all of a sudden, the one time you're like, no, I got this. That's when it goes wrong.
Okay, we will be joined by the victorious runner Takaze after he lets his credits play out, because there's actually he has a wacky thing with his capture card that he's telling us will actually crash his stream if he joins Discord right now. I just don't even, but that's fine. So we'll let him chill for a bit. But we are now joined by Sydarial, who very nearly managed to salvage a victory there and played very well throughout the entire thing. Sid, GG on your play in that race, but tell us how you were feeling during that Ganon fight, as far as, you hadn't seen a dot done yet until kind of the very end there.
I was getting nervous there at the end. Definitely figuring it'd be coming close, because I pretty much searched everywhere I could have before I found the red cane.
So you had, kind of a couple options available to you after you picked up that fire rod from, wherever the heck you picked up the fire rod. Let's pretend that I remember where it was.
Swamp. No, wait, no, it was Swamp. It was Mire Shed.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. So you had that fire rod, and there were a couple things available to you, and your first call was Ice Palace. What kind of led you specifically to think maybe Ice Palace is the play, as opposed to, going to finish Skull, or like doing some of the other Titans Met overworld?
It's a dungeon I could complete. There's 3 items in it. I was figuring if I didn't find it there, I was gonna go do the skull lumberjack, or not lumberjack, smithy check with the purple chest. And then in between I went to Death Mount because there's a lot of items there.
Yeah, so overall, I mean, not to, of course, pour salt on the wound or anything like that, but overall, like, your routing was very, very similar to Takaze. What basically ended up kind of being the difference was the extra time taken for the Ice Palace play and also the East Death Mountain play. Because, of course, as you found out, there was no need to go to East Death Mountain whatsoever. Bomb Boost wasn't needed, and the Cane was just sitting at Blacksmith. Obviously, you're not psychic. So I'm just saying that to,
Well,
give you the explanation.
Yeah, I knew Turtle Rock wasn't required as soon as I was missing the Red Cane, because, well, you can't do anything in Turtle Rock without it, so...
Yeah, well, that makes you better than me, because I was multiple times like, oh god, I hope he doesn't get the Turtle Rock medallion.
That's why I didn't even bother to check what Turtle Rock was. I was like, yeah, I don't need it, so move along.
Going like all the way back to the beginning of this race, during the escape, you did not manage to pick up a bomb, and you ended up having to skip the back of the escape. And then, of course, later you did get access to it, and it turned out to be the mirror and the sword. And your opponent actually did manage to get that bomb and find his way back there on the first trip. I'm wondering, how did you kind of get the sense that maybe that meant you were, forced a little bit behind by virtue of that play, or, did that affect your mindset at all at that stage of the race?
It probably put me a bit behind if he did have a bomb and there was something inside of it that was worth value. Of course, there was 2 things worth value. But in the end, I'm assuming most of us would have, or him would have, if he didn't go there, would have been searching it for the Moon Pearl, since it wasn't one of the last spots he probably would have thought it would have been.
Yeah, that was definitely the case. Both of you guys, of course, got walled by that Moon Pearl search. You both ended up checking everything before getting the Moon Pearl. So you ended up pretty much entering the Dark World at the same time. You ended up diverging slightly, but he did Thieves first, you did Pod first, and then you guys just traded. It was the funniest thing. Like, the entire time, you guys were doing pretty much the same plays. I just, going back over the way you played that seed, were there any, obviously, you wish you could have been psychic and just know that the Cane was at Hammer Pegs, but I'm more wondering, was there anything that you thought you did that genuinely you felt like you could have made a better play, like a better choice as far as how you did stuff?
Probably doing Swamp earlier, considering it was the value play, considering you had early flippers, early mirror, kind of hitting to it, even early hookshot, just kind of hinting towards it. So...
Yeah, that swamp had all the value you could have asked for in terms of opening locations up after everything else in Dark World was dry. How did you feel when you got when you got those items, in terms of, did you expect Takaze was there earlier, or did you think that you were going pretty quick?
well, I figured he probably went there earlier, considering it was the last dungeon I could have did at that time. If I would have did it earlier, probably would have gotten the Cane a lot earlier, because I would have just did it with the Thieves Town play, so I wouldn't have had to worry about that. But then it could have made me think to go into Turtle Rock for something if I needed it.
There's certainly a reasonably friendly arrangement of pendants. Obviously, of course, Hera was required, but I mean, really, as far as pendant dungeons go, Hera is probably one of the best to have. And then you didn't even have to touch Desert Palace or Turtle Rock, so that was pretty nice. I will ask one more, kind of just one-off question. When you got that gold sword in Spike Cave, what was your thought at that point? I know you were kind of low on locations to check, and it was kind of interesting that you diverged over to Spike Cave at that point, given that, of course, there were slightly faster locations elsewhere, though obviously it was nearby.
Yeah, it was nearby when you do the Death Mountain check, so might as well check it. So if I got the Moon Pearl earlier up on Death Mountain when I went there for Hera, I would have checked it on the way down, because, well, the way how many hearts we got really early on, pretty much I could have checked it.
So seeing the final stats for Sydarial on screen, a 144 out of 216. Pretty solid item collection in this seed, particularly given that weird segment in the middle where there was just no progression until Swamp. That was pretty unusual.
Yep. Sometimes it is the play for Swamp, and I didn't really want to have to go back to left side for the one item, but I figured I needed a couple items, so I had to go back.
We were kind of wondering if you would take that gamble and just skip out on left side, or if you were going to go back in there after getting so much unlocked. It was kind of 50-50 on that choice.
Yeah, considering I needed, I think at the time, Fire Rod and Cane and perhaps another medallion. So it's probably worth your while when you need 3 progression items, possibly.
Yeah, it's always hard to say that, of course, because Swamp is such a time sink that potentially you could just be wasting. But I mean, the same goes for a lot of those dungeons. I will ask one more routing question for you. Obviously, when you got into the Dark World, you had like a wide variety of options available to you. In fact, I believe the first time you entered the Dark World, you had all of Thieves' Town, the front of Skull, of course, Swamp Palace, and Pod available to go do. What was your thinking at that point as far as how did you decide Pod is the place I should go first?
There's 6 items, or 5 items there, and they're relatively quick to check. Plus, I'm going to go around, get the pyramid, catfish, and then I could go around to Village of Outcasts, and then I had a choice to go up or down. I said, well, go up, and then go back, and then go down towards Swamp, so I almost did like a circle, and should have found something. Mostly because if I would have found progression and needed go mode, well, Swamp would have been a nice, easy, quick check, and just go through it.
Alright, and we are now joined by the victorious runner today, Takaze, although, as I'm sure you'll want to mention, by kind of a hair, what went through your head, Takaze, at the moment that you took that fall to get in?
Oh, even before I took the fall, like I knew I was falling there, and I'm like, oh well, I'm done. This is it. GG. Yeah, GG. By the way, that was a really close race.
It sure was.
So I haven't heard a lot of your discussions. I guess what was the quick recap?
Yeah, so I'll give you both kind of a quick recap, but of course, both of you guys will remember most of the highlights. You got walled in the beginning of the game by Moon Pearl being on the green pendant. Both of you checked everything, literally everything available before you turned in that green pendant and picked up the Moon Pearl. And then you made your way into the Dark World. This is where there was a little bit of divergence. Takaze headed over to Thieves' Town. While you were doing that, Sydarial headed over to Palace of Darkness. And once you guys had completed those dungeons respectively, you swapped. Now, the one difference was Sydarial went to Skull a lot earlier than you did, Takaze. Picked up that Ether Medallion, but of course didn't have Fire Rod yet. So, other than that, you got to Swamp Palace at about the same time. Takaze slightly in the lead. Sydarial opted not to skip the left side, although it looked for a moment like he might. So you both came out at a similar time, and that was where the real divergence happened. Once Sydarial picked up the Fire Rod, he went to Ice Palace and full cleared that, whereas you, Takaze, managed to make the lucky guess, basically, and you did the Titan's Mid overworld, and you collected your cane, and that was effectively go mode at that point. So that was pretty much the difference. Other than that, like your Ganon's Tower, you both went right. Everything was very similar. You guys executed really well on pretty much everything. And then, unfortunately, Takaze had a fall to Ganon, but was able to, not take that death there. Not take the loss there for that issue. So given all that, Takaze, let's go back to that Cane of Samaria play. And let me ask you, when you had acquired the mitt and boots from Swamp, how did you kind of prioritize the remaining set of things that you had to do, and how did you arrive at the conclusion of let's go to Blacksmith sooner rather than later?
Mainly because, okay, so mitts tends to open up a lot, and I can really, my mind was like, I can really quickly clear those 3 things. Being that I just got mitts, let's like I didn't even think I had. If I remember right, there was really no other non-MIT locations to really check. So that's usually kind of my go-to. Like as soon as I get MITs, I really like doing blacksmith and purple chest, this kind of stuff.
I will ask, did the presence of the flute kind of make you think particularly like, okay, if I didn't have flute, maybe I wouldn't want to do the purple chest walk, but since I do, it's a little bit more convenient to do it.
Yeah, if I didn't have the flute, I might have opted to instead do like the north side of Hyrule or even Dark Death Mountain. Yeah, so definitely having, if I have flute and mirror, I really don't mind doing purple chest.
It was a really interesting decision, and my favorite part about that is I don't know that I can say between either of your decisions that one of them seems more right. Obviously, of course, in this case, Takaze, you came out on top, so for this particular seed, you were correct, but Sydarial, in addition to going to Ice, also headed up to East DM, and could easily also have found the cane there, although, of course, maybe that leads you to Turtle Rock, who even knows, so... well, of course it wouldn't have, because anyway, you get the idea. You never know what could happen. Randomizer is randomizer.
Yeah, I think there is sometimes I think I get too consumed by doing certain overworld locations, and I could probably do a better job at diverting my attention elsewhere. But it worked out, I guess.
Yep, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
That's Randomizer.
Yep.
That is, of course, why everything once you get to the bracket stage is best of 3, but for now, at least you do have the safety net. You can drop up to 2 matches and still be able to make the bracket, so Sydarial, of course, your tournament life is far from over here.
Yep.
And as for you, Takaze, you're off to a 2-0 start. How do you feel to be pulling that off, considering I think at one point you were telling me you were kind of waffling on whether to even join the tournament, right?
Yeah. Like I'm in the No Major Glitches tournament, so I had that going on, though that will be ending pretty shortly for me. Just life stuff is pretty busy, so... Oh, and I hadn't really played Randomizer in the past year, so I was kind of debating if I really wanted to join this, but certain individuals convinced me, persuaded me, whatever you'd like to call it, and this is fun. I do enjoy doing this.
Well, I'm glad those individuals were able to pull that off, and congratulations on your victory today. But I think that's going to do it for us. Mentos, do you have any final thoughts for our runners or questions for them?
I guess I would just like to say, with how often that seed walled you guys, how many times did that mushroom and lumberjack cave come to mind?
I was thinking about it.
I was thinking about it as soon as I didn't find anything after Spike Cave. It was like, we have to go Aghanim to Mushroom to Cane, or to Book to Cane. I know there's chat probably was like, yeah, let's hope for Aghanim Seed for Book.
Longest possible fetch quest chain you can possibly think of.
30 longest item chain? Yeah.
Let's not do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was definitely some fear, but fortunately, at least Boots came pretty late. At the same time, you got Mitt, so there was a lot of other opportunity to avoid that. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up then. This has been a great time, and I hope that all of you viewers will stick around and watch more Link to the Past Randomizer action. To do so, all you need to do is follow 10 Twitch channels. Those are Speed Gaming 2 through 6, and ALTTP Randomizer, and ALTTP Randomizer 2 through 4. You follow those channels, you will get so much randomizer, you won't even know what to do with yourself. So make sure to do that. Please also make sure to give our runners today a follow to Takaze and Sydarial. Enter !R in the chat to get that information. They have done a great job today. Again, congrats to Takaze on the victory. My name has been Voligen. It will continue to be Voligen, but also it has been Voligen. I've been here with Mentos Man, and Mentos, I will let you sign us off today.
Sounds good. I hope everyone has a wonderful day, night, afternoon, whatever time it is where they are. And we'll see you around next time.
Yep.